Hi friends. Today we are going to discuss about a very famous short story composed by equally famous and well-known Indian English writer R K Narayan. R K Narayan is famous who made Indian English fiction famous in the world, who popularized Indian short stories in English, and he is celebrated the first Indian author who set the norms of writing in English, and then many later authors or writers composed on the same line of R K Narayan. So R K Narayan must be given the credit of this thing to who made the Indian English writing very popular. So friends, today we are going to discuss about his famous story called An Astrologer's Day. Before starting the story, let's discuss about some background. Friends, as we know, he is famous as R K Narayan, but his full name is Rashipuram Krishna Swami Iyer Narayan Swami, and we use generally short name R K Narayan, and he is famous for that name. Friends, R K Narayan is famous for his short stories and novels or fiction. So let's first consider some of the most famous novels or some of the most famous works who made him very popular in English as an English writer or in Indian English writing. So friends, here we have some of the famous novels. The very first we have Swami and Friends. It is his first novel published in 1935. The second novel we have The Bachelor of Arts published in 1937. Then we have The English Teacher 1945. Then we have The Guide, which is published in 1958, which won Sahitya Academy Award, and later the same novel has been adapted for screening, and it made a very successful film with the same name, The Guide, in Bollywood. You can watch that movie so that you can understand the very novel or fiction The Guide by R K Narayan. Then we have Waiting for Mahatma published in 1955. Then The Painter of Science 1977. Mr. Sampath 1948. The Financial Expert, it is also a very famous novel published in 1952. Then The Man-Eater of Malgudi 1961, and Malgudi Days, which is a collection of short stories published in 1943. And then we have An Astrologer's Day and Other Stories published in 1947. And friends, this story, An Astrologer's Day, is taken from this collection, An Astrologer's Day and Other Stories. Now friends, if you look at his academic profile, we find that R K Narayan received so many honors and awards, which particularly includes Padma Bhushan, one of the prestigious awards in India. He was bestowed with Padma Bhushan in 1964. The second award we find A.C. Benson Medal by the British Royal Society of Literature 1980. Then we have Filmfare Award for the best story of The Guide, which is given him in the same year of the film The Guide. He was nominated for multiple times for the Nobel Prize for Literature Award, but unfortunately he could not receive it. But no matter friends, he is equally famous and he deserves the same. When we think about his standards of writing, his style, his art of storytelling, everything is fantastic. And again, he received Padma Vibhushan, second the most prestigious award given by the government of India after Bharat Ratna. He received Padma Vibhushan in 2000. Now friends, let's move to this story, An Astrologer's Day. What is this story about? If we think about the title, we find that it must be about an astrologer, because the title says us An Astrologer's Day. So a day is depicted or explained in the life of an astrologer. Now this story is very interesting because we find that here we do not have regular astrologer, but a person who becomes astrologer by chance. He is not actually an astrologer or from the Brahmin community, but he becomes astrologer. Why did he become astrologer, or what was the situation behind becoming the astrologer is given in this story. Generally friends, we find that Indians are superstitious people, and they generally trust everything blindly. Most of the times, we cannot say that everything, but most of the times Indians blindly trust anything, or most of the things. So friends, this is also a depiction of the superstitious nature of Indians, and an incident is described in this story. Friends, what happens in this story? This story is told in third person narrative, or author directly tells us the story and third person pronouns are used. For example, he, she, and other things are described in the same way. So friends, what happens in this story? At the very first, we find that an astrologer is placing his paraphernalia, means the equipments which are used to see the future, or astrology or palmistry of the people, and a scene is depicted that the person sits on the busy road so that he can get the customers or clients, and many persons come to him and he earns through this astrology or through this palmistry. He reads the palms of people and tell their future. Actually, this is not a proven fact, or this is not tested, or this is not experienced kind of thing. Palmistry is not a science, but generally people believe, trust in this palmistry. And there one day there comes a person at the end of the day when this astrologer is binding his all the material, his all the equipments or the tools which he used to see the palms of other people. One day a person comes to his way and he calls that person, and he requests, or he forces that person to show his hand, and he tells that he will tell the future of that person. But that person is adamant, and he says that if you prove true in your telling future or in your palm reading, I will give you money. If you prove wrong, then I will take your all money. Whatever you earn today, I will get it from you. So this type of challenge he throws upon this astrologer, and astrologer has to see his palm. When that person leads the match and a light comes from that match, at that time this astrologer sees his face, watches his face, observes his face, and he understands, or he remembers the old days, and there is great things happened in his old days, and very immediately he gets confused what to tell this person, and now this person forces him to tell the future, and a challenge is posed before this astrologer, and astrologer very cunningly, very shrewdly sees his hand and tells about his future and also about his past, because there is a system of all these astrologers. First, these astrologers tells the person before them to say a few things about them, or what is their problem, and in that particular talking of the client or customer, they understands what might be happened in the past of this person, and they tell according the past. So this is a type of practice, and they do this practice all the time, and they try to read the psychology of persons, and then they try to tell the future. But there is no any truth behind this astrology or behind this reading of palms or the palmistry. Here the same thing happens. He understands what happened in the life of that particular person, and he directly tells, because this astrologer is directly related to this person, or the person who is showing hand to him, and he tells what happened in the past of this person. He tells the name of that person as Guru Nayak. So we can here have the very remark of R K Narayan, how these people read the hands, or how these people tell the future of persons. He means this astrologer had a working analysis of mankind's troubles, marriage, money, and the tangles of human ties. Long practice had sharpened their perception. Within 5 minutes, he understood what was wrong. So friends, it is very clear that these persons have made a lot of practice in this field, and so that they can understand a few things about these persons, and generally they speak very common things. Now astrologer is a very shrewd and cunning person. He understands that person, and he tells the story about that client. He tells the name of that person, that is, he is Guru Nayak, and a thing happened in his life. He was once stabbed by a person and pulled into the well, and there he was lived to die, but fortunately he lives, he survives from that incident, from that event. And this event, when this astrologer tells to Guru Nayak or the client or customer, he gets astonished and he thinks that the astrologer is saying truth, and after that he gives him money. Astrologer takes his money and he says that you should not travel in the southern side, your village is in northern side, so you have to immediately leave for your village, you have to go to village, otherwise there is a great danger ahead, and if you stay here you will get into a trouble, so you should leave this place immediately. And that person leaves the place. When the astrologer comes, now here is a turning point. When this astrologer comes to home, he says what happened on that day to his wife. He gives all the money he taken from that Guru Nayak or from that customer, and he tells that once a thing happened with him. In a heat of movement, he stabbed a person and thrown him into the well, but fortunately that person survives, and that person is none other than this Guru Nayak, this client, this customer who come to him, and he recalls everything happened in the past. Actually, he is not a professional astrologer, he became astrologer by chance. In his younger days, he stabbed that Guru Nayak or that person and thrown him into the well, and he lived his village. He has to run away from his village. He eloped from his village and stayed here in the southern part in this village, and he became astrologer. And one day this Guru Nayak came to him and he gets fooled by this astrologer, and this time astrologer escaped from the wrath, from the angry nature of Guru Nayak, and he becomes satisfied on that day, and he thinks that he should not recall again this type of things, and he survived from that trouble and he gets sleep. Now friends, here the story ends. If you look at this story, you find that how Indian people are, or what kind of nature Indians possess, and how some people make them fool, how some people exploit them, shrewd or cunning kind of people. So this is all about story. Now here we find that R K Narayan is a very skilled author who depicts the Indian persons, the Indian atmosphere, the Indianness in his stories, and we find the rural ethos, the very setting of his stories in the rural India. And we have his famous Malgudi town. Actually it is a fictional or imaginary town, as we find in English literature the imaginary town or the fictional town composed by Thomas Hardy as Wessex. So it is like Wessex in Indian literature, Malgudi, and his Malgudi Days, the collection of short stories, also is very famous. So this is all about the short story. Friends, if you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to Literature Simply, and don't forget to press the bell notification icon. Or if you have any query or question or comment, you can comment below in the comment box.